Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, Florida, home to nearly 1 million people. A city built on strong military roots and an industrious spirit. In the early 1900s, it was the birthplace of film in America, earning the nickname the First Hollywood. Every fall, the city comes alive for the annual Florida-Georgia game. That passion turned into a dream of hosting our own NFL franchise.
Membership has selected Jacksonville as the 30th NFL club.
Duval! Most cities got one hood, not in Jacksonville.
But behind the riverfront and the roaring stadium lies a darker side. With some of the deadliest neighborhoods in the nation and a crime rate higher than most U.S. cities, Jacksonville's shadows are as compelling as its sunshine.
Nev's the producer. He's unstoppable.
You must remain focused. Put up the good fight, don't forfeit. They gotta keeping on. Keeping on it. Keeping on. Keeping on it. You thought I couldn't do it, but I'm back to the basics. Taking off again, I'm just fixing on the spaceship. This how God's works, so it's nothing you can do.
Welcome to Deadly Duval, the podcast that dives deep into Jacksonville's darkest mysteries, seeking justice for the forgotten, and uncovering the truth hidden in the shadows. Today, we're dedicating this episode to a Jacksonville man whose life was marked by resilience, creativity, and an unrelenting passion for music. This is the story of Robert McLaughlin, better known to the music world as Royal Francis. Robert has been missing for over 7 years now, and while his family continues to fight for justice and answers, this episode is not just about his disappearance. It's a tribute to the man, his legacy, and the undeniable mark he left on those who knew him. Born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida, Robert was a force to be reckoned with in the local rap scene. As Royal Francis, he captivated audiences with his catchy lyrics and electric performances. His song Keep Keepin' On was gaining momentum, embodying the spirit of that perseverance that defined his life. But Robert was more than a rapper. He was a son, a friend, a man with a story worth telling. In 2014, he survived a devastating car accident that left him with a traumatic brain injury. For 6 weeks, his memory faltered, but his determination was never wavered. Against all odds, Robert made a full recovery, proving that resilience was in his very DNA. Robert McLaughlin, or Francis, as his friends affectionately called him, was a laid-back guy with a love for life. He grew up in the Sherwood Forest community on Tamworth Road in Jacksonville's north side and continued to call the area home. Robert was known for his hard work and unwavering kindness. He had a tight-knit group of friends he'd kept for years, a testament of his loyalty and genuine nature. You'd often see him at Jacksonville's monthly art walk, soaking in the city's creative energy, or at a music studio pouring his heart into his craft. When he wasn't creating music, he was shooting hoops, watching football, or spending time with his family and loved ones. Robert was a man who thrived in the presence of his people, and his presence was a gift to those who knew him. On September 24, 2017, Robert visited his mother, Angela McLaughlin. They watched the Jacksonville Jaguars play before he left to shoot some hoops with a friend. That was the last time that she saw him. The next day, Angela knew something was wrong when Robert missed a car appointment. Her gut instinct was right. He was gone. His car, wallet, ID, and personal belongings were all left behind. Only his phone and keys were missing. Angela immediately reported him missing, but 7 years later, his case remains unsolved. She has fought tirelessly for answers, but like so many cases involving missing minorities, Robert's story has struggled to gain the attention it deserves. Robert's mother described him as a man who loved deeply and lived passionately. He was dedicated to his craft, and his upcoming performance in Georgia was a testament to his unwavering commitment to his music. His family is certain he wouldn't have missed that show, which makes his sudden disappearance all that more heartbreaking. Angela McLaughlin has been vocal about the challenges of navigating the justice system. As a mother of a missing black man, she feels her son's case has been overlooked, and the lack of communication from investigators only deepens her pain. "We believe someone out there knows something," she said. "We will never stop searching until we bring Robert home." The weekend before his disappearance, Robert attended a friend's wedding, a joyous occasion where everyone remembers him having a great time. It was a snapshot of the happiness and warmth he brought wherever he went. On Monday, September 25, 2017, he was last seen at his apartment in the Caper Landing complex. At the time, he was working at Bacardi on Imison Boulevard through Allegiance Staffing. He was a man with dreams, responsibilities, and a life he was actively living. But something happened that night, something that led to his sudden and unexplained disappearance. His wallet was later found in his car, and his backpack was discovered in the trunk. These details, while concerning, only deepen the mystery. They paint a picture of a man who didn't plan to leave but somehow never came back. Robert's mother, Angela, has been the heartbeat of the search for her son. Her words resonate deeply.
It's a piece of us that's missing. So it's been very hard.
For the hat trick.
September 24th, 2017. Jacksonville celebrated a victory over Baltimore. Angela McLaughlin Brantley remembers the win well.
He had just left my house that Sunday watching the Jaguar game.
It was the last time she saw or heard from her oldest son, but now he's not the only one she can't reach.
Nobody's returning any calls about anything.
She's been trying to get an update from the case detective to no avail. She tried again on Thursday.
Please record your voice message.
Her son, Robert McLaughlin, was a popular rapper known as Royal Francis.
He's saying that it's God's work that he's still able to do his music.
Brantley fears he's been categorized and set aside.
Just because someone has braids and has tattoos and likes rap music and all of that that does not make them be in the category of someone that is in the thuggish life, I call it. You know what I'm saying?
The questions she hears now are less comforting and more judgmental.
Is he on drugs? Is he wrong with the wrong crowd? Is he gay? Is he this? You know, that kind of bothers me.
Still hopeful.
He's someone that you would love to be around, that is always kept you uplifted and laughing all the time.
She says she just wants reassurance from police that they haven't given up, and anyone in the community to please come forward.
The unknown is what is the problem. That's the bother. And it's unfair. It's very unfair.
Angela's pain is palpable, and her unwavering dedication to keeping her son's memory alive is inspiring. She reminds us all of the importance of sharing Robert's story, saying, please take a look at these pictures, ask around, and if you do nothing else, share this information. Someone, somewhere, knows something that could bring Robert home safely. Now that you know more about Robert, where he's from, and his character, let's talk about his closest friends. Amp, Phil, TJ, and Bella. They each met Robert in different ways, but became a tight-knit group over time. Much of the following information is Bella's account of the events prior to and after Robert's disappearance. Bella, originally from the Netherlands, met Robert in 2009 at a bar in Jacksonville where he was performing under the name Franchise. They started collaborating on music, writing songs, performing shows, and even forming a group called Royal Airs. Though the group didn't last, Bella and Robert remained close friends. Bella was also the last person to see him before his disappearance. He was living with her at the time. Amp, one of Robert's oldest friends from high school, was the joker of the group. A Navy veteran, he was fiercely loyal and always in the crowd at Robert's shows, hyping him up. Phil, introduced through Amp, became Robert's stage hype man and was known for his knack for getting into any venue. Lastly, there was TJ, a quieter presence in the group. He and Robert grew up together, attended church, and their families were close. Though Bella didn't know TJ as well, his connection to Robert was strong. These friends shared countless memories, road trips, performances, and plenty of laughs. They were like family, but even in the happiest moments, questions remain. What roles did these relationships play in the events leading up to Robert's disappearance? In February of 2014, Bella received a call from Miss Angela. Robert was in the ICU after being hit by an 18-wheeler on I-95 North near Exit 1 in St. Mary's, Georgia. Bella and Phil rushed to the hospital to find him in critical condition: head trauma, memory loss, broken ribs, a shattered shoulder, and his left arm held together with iron plates. He was bruised all over and on a breathing machine. His family had so many questions. Why was he in Georgia? Who had he been with? The truck driver claimed Robert was walking on the highway, suggesting it was a suicide attempt. But eyewitnesses and later details told of a different story. Robert had been walking on the shoulder, and the truck's tire marks showed it veered into the grass. It's believed the driver fell asleep, yet no lawyer would take the case. It was his word against Robert's, and Robert couldn't remember anything about the accident. That morning, Bella received 2 anonymous voicemails from Robert around 1 a.m.
Hey, Bella, I didn't know if you was at work or not. I'm going to give you a call back in a few. All right.
Those voicemails were chilling in hindsight. For weeks, Robert struggled with memory loss. He thought he was in New York in 1986, confused and asking daily to remind him of the accident. The doctors kept him heavily medicated, and he barely grasped what had happened. The big mystery remained. How did Robert end up in St. Mary's? He certainly didn't walk 36 miles from Jacksonville. That's when I turned to TJ, Bella explains. He admitted he'd seen Robert that Sunday and given him a ride, but he promised Robert not to tell anyone. After some pressure, TJ revealed he'd dropped Robert off at Pecan Park, an isolated empty exit with no gas stations at the time. When I asked why, TJ just said, "He asked me to." Even now, I don't understand TJ's secrecy. His loyalty to Robert was unshakable, but his evasiveness left lingering doubts. Robert never remembered why he was there, and TJ never told the full story. After Robert's disappearance, TJ's behavior only grew more suspicious. He lied to detectives, which made me question what else he might know. Okay, so now we're going to go over Bella's recollection of the events that took place on September 25th, 2017. It was a Tuesday morning. Around 7:45, Bella had just come home from work. She noticed Robert's car was still parked in the same spot where she had seen it the night before, just a little further down from the entrance to her apartment building. Earlier that year, Robert had asked Bella if he could stay with her for personal reasons. He wanted to be closer to the area she lived in. She trusted him, and she didn't think it would cause any trouble. He already had a key to her apartment and often stayed on the couch. Eventually, she let him move into her spare bedroom. Bella worked night shifts, and Robert usually worked during the day, so there were days where they barely saw each other, only texting when necessary. That morning, Bella unlocked her door and walked in. Not surprised when she didn't see Robert lying on the couch, she assumed he was in his room, as the door was closed. She quietly went about her morning, taking a shower, making breakfast, and starting a movie. She didn't want to disturb him if he was sleeping. Around 11:30 a.m., Bella received a call from Miss Angela, Robert's mother. Angela asked if Robert was home. Bella knocked on his bedroom door, but there was no answer. She told Angela he's not here, but added that his car had been there that morning when she got home. Angela mentioned that they had an appointment at the car dealership and Robert hadn't shown up. Concerned, Bella opened Robert's bedroom door and saw his bed was empty. On the dresser, she noticed his car keys. She told Angela, "Give me a second, let me check outside." She walked out to the parking lot and confirmed his car was still parked in the same spot. Bella reassured Angela, saying, "I think he just forgot the appointment." But deep down, she felt uneasy. Robert never missed his mother's appointments, especially not one like this. He had been eager to get these tires replaced on the car. Bella recalled seeing him the night before when she left for work around 10:40 p.m., so she figured he must have gone out after that. Angela explained she couldn't reach Robert because his phone was off, which didn't surprise Bella. He had told her the previous night that his phone service might be cut off. Bella tried to remain optimistic, thinking he might be at TJ's place or had stayed out late. She remembered asking him if he had planned on going anywhere that night, and he said no because he had rented some movies. Angela, however, felt something was wrong. Bella started making phone calls to Robert's friends. TJ, who had been spending a lot of time with Robert recently, said he hadn't spoken to him since Sunday. Bella wasn't sure if that was true, but she didn't think much of it at the time. Bella called Angela back, explaining that she'd contacted everyone she could think of but hadn't found any leads. Angela decided to file a missing persons report, even though it hadn't been 24 hours since anyone had last seen Robert. Bella thought it might be too soon to assume something was wrong, but Angela insisted. Later that day, 2 officers from Jacksonville Sheriff's Office arrived at Bella's apartment. They asked her about Robert's last known whereabouts. Bella explained that she'd seen him the night before, just before leaving for work. The officers asked if there were any signs of a struggle or unusual behavior, but Bella said everything seemed normal. The officers then asked if anything was missing. Bella checked Robert's room and noticed his wallet and backpack were gone, items he never left the house without. All of his shoes were still there except a pair of red and white Jordans he always wore. The clothes he had on the night before, a black t-shirt and black shorts, were also missing. However, his car keys were still on the dresser, and his car was still parked outside. One of the officers asked if Bella had looked inside the car. She admitted she hadn't because she still believed Robert would show up. She thought maybe he was with someone who had picked him up, and it was all just a misunderstanding, but her gut was starting to tell her otherwise. The officers and Bella headed downstairs to check Robert's car. Now, this is Bella's recollection of the wallet and the backpack. The officer searched Robert's car and found 4 large tires in the back. I explained they were for his missed dealership appointment that morning. When the officer opened the center console and pulled out Robert's wallet, I was stunned. Robert never left his wallet, ID, or bank card in the car. He'd go out in a storm to retrieve them. My reaction seemed to make the officer realize how out of character this was. I asked him to check the trunk. When he opened it, I told him we were looking for Robert's backpack. Moments later, he held up a black bag. My heart sank. I felt like the ground was pulling away from me. The officer asked if I was okay and told me to sit down while detectives took over the case. 2 detectives arrived and began asking questions. They searched Robert's room and found a few dollars, a lottery ticket he had bought the day before, and his notebook filled with lyrics. There were no signs of drugs, weapons, or criminal activity. They asked about his job, and I explained that he had quit 2 weeks earlier, complaining of shoulder pain and seemed more withdrawn, even depressed. When someone close to you disappears, your perspective shifts. Everyday things seem like clues, and actual clues can feel like coincidences. The response from friends and family was divided. Some showed little interest, while others were quick to suspect anyone and everyone. Being the last person to see Robert alive put me under scrutiny. His mom believed I might know something because of how close we were, but I was just as clueless. My alibi was solid and verified by detectives, but others were evasive and uncooperative. As the days passed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. Robert wasn't just missing, he was gone under circumstances no one could explain. And as a black male rapper with dreads, I felt like society dismissed his case without a second thought. I wanted to scream, "Does anyone care?" Bella seems forthcoming and genuine in her account. There are, of course, questions and theories. Bella, a former roommate and friend of Robert's, found his wallet and backpack but later pointed suspicion towards another close friend, TJ. Bella left the country in 2019, a move some find curious. Was she fearful? Was there more to the story? We may never know. What we do know is that Robert was a man of authenticity. His lyrics were uplifting, his presence magnetic. He was someone who brought joy, love, and passion to those around him. When I reflect on his life through his pictures, his music, and his story, one thing stands out to me. I see Robert as a beautiful soul. His words, his music were authentic and uplifting. For his family, the pain of his absence is compounded by the lack of answers. They've been left to piece together a puzzle without all the pieces, and their hope rests on someone stepping forward with the truth. Let's begin unraveling the events surrounding Robert's vanishing. As we piece together the clues, we're left with more questions than answers. Let's start with the scene of his disappearance. A quiet apartment, a locked car, and items left behind that paint an unsettling picture. Robert's car was discovered parked outside the apartment he shared with Bella Zen, a close friend and confidant. When the officers arrived, Bella's concern was palpable. She insisted on looking inside the car, desperate to find something, anything, that might offer a clue. When the center console was opened, it revealed his wallet containing his ID, bank card, and other personal items. Then when the trunk was opened, it revealed a black book bag. For Bella, this discovery marked a turning point. She described feeling as though the ground was being pulled out from under her, her blood running cold. It was clear that something was terribly wrong. The bag contained other personal belongings. Robert's life seemed to be in that bag, so why would he leave it behind? This question looms large, hitting at the departure that was neither planned nor voluntary. The detectives took over the case from that moment. They examined Robert's room and found his notebooks filled with lyrics, a few dollars, a lottery ticket bought the day before. Notably, there were no signs of drugs, weapons, or any criminal activity. What they did find was a man's world seemingly frozen in time. His music, his dreams, his essence, all left behind. Now let's shift the focus to Robert's behavior leading up to his disappearance. According to Bella, he had been struggling. He quit his physically demanding job 2 weeks prior, complaining of shoulder pain. That's understandable given the accident he was in. However, this contradicts what his mother said. Angela stated he was working at Bacardi on Imeson Park Boulevard through Allegiant staffing at the time of his disappearance. Perhaps he just didn't want to tell his mother that he had quit his job. That's understandable. His usual upbeat demeanor was replaced with something darker. He seemed to be in a depressive state, withdrawn, and uncharacteristically off. Was this a sign of internal struggles, or was there something or someone else causing his distress? Others said he was optimistic because of an upcoming performance and a chance to showcase his talent in Savannah. Bella's account also highlights his stark reality. The reactions of those closest to Robert were deeply divided. Some showed little interest in searching for him, while others pointed fingers, casting suspicion far and wide. Bella herself became the target of scrutiny with people, including Robert's own mother, questioning her involvement. Yet Bella's alibi checked out. She claims to be as clueless as anyone. Still, her separation from certain individuals, friends of Robert who seemed evasive with detectives, raises eyebrows. This brings us to some critical questions. Who were these individuals? Why were they avoiding law enforcement? Were they simply scared, or did they know more than they were letting on? Bella also pointed out something chilling: the racial bias that overshadowed this case. Robert was a black man, a rapper with dreads, and that image alone carried prejudgments that seemed to diminish the urgency of anyone searching for him. Listeners, think about this. How often do we see cases like Robert's fade into obscurity because of social biases? How many families are left without closure simply because the world fails to care enough? Even though many emails and Facebook messages were sent requesting that this be covered on the local TV station, they waited 10 days. 10 days to give him and his mother a segment on the 10 p.m. news. People don't remember seeing him after 10 days. Be honest, who do you remember after 10 days? That was Bella's point. And then there's Bella herself. She was deeply concerned for Robert, but could her concern mask something more sinister? After all, she moved overseas in 2019 and didn't share her side of the story publicly until 3 years after Robert's disappearance, 1 year after her relocation. Was this timing a coincidence? Or was it a way to distance herself from an unsolved case? Was she scared? Could there have been a plot against Robert involving those he trusted the most? Or are these speculations merely distractions from the real story? When someone disappears, time seems to warp. Bella described how everything became suspect. Every mundane detail felt like a potential clue. Every oddity like a revelation. But here's the haunting truth. As much as we try to piece together what happened, some elements remain maddeningly elusive. As I previously stated, Robert wasn't just a rapper. He was a son, a friend, a man who loved music and avoided violence. His disappearance isn't just a mystery, it's a tragedy that highlights the fragility of human connections and systemic flaws in how we treat missing persons cases. Here are my final thoughts on the matter. I listened to Bella's Find Robert Francis podcast, and I believe she was being truthful and forthcoming in her recollections of the events leading up to Robert's disappearance. However, I can't help but have questions and suspicions about the relationship between TJ and her. It struck me as odd how quickly she was to separate herself from TJ in the podcast, making sure that the listener knew that she really didn't know him and only met him a couple of times, and that he and Robert had a separate, private relationship. What does that mean? What's being implied here? Were they involved in illegal activities? Were they in an intimate relationship? I don't want to cast negativity, but these are legitimate questions. Did something happen at this wedding that was briefly spoken about? Robert loved sports. Was he into gambling and owed money to someone? These questions could lead to answers. Bella's podcast makes it seem like TJ might have some answers, as she points the finger in his direction. Was she in fear for her safety? Is that why she left? Is that why she waited to tell her story? It's worth noting that, according to Bella, she was the only one with a verifiable alibi. This raises important questions about the other people involved, particularly TJ and his relationship with Robert. I don't personally know anyone connected to this case, so I can only examine what's been shared and speculate based on the available information. TJ and Robert's relationship leaves me with many questions. Could they have been in a romantic relationship? If so, could there have been a fight that led to Robert walking on the highway that night? Perhaps he asked to be let out of the vehicle, or worse, was forced out. Could his actions that night have been an attempt at suicide? If so, why? While it's possible, I find it unlikely without a note or clearer evidence. TJ's secrecy also raises red flags. I can't help but wonder if Robert truly couldn't recall what happened after the accident, or if he remembered later and chose not to share it. The privacy and the perceived sneakiness around TJ and Robert's relationship brings many aspects of this case into question and might hold the key to solving this mystery. I want to make it clear that I pass no judgment on anyone's private life or personal choices. These details don't make anyone less human or less deserving of compassion. However, these are legitimate questions that need to be asked if we are to uncover the truth, regardless of personal feelings or sensitivities surrounding the situation. In my opinion, on the night of his disappearance, Robert probably received a text, call, or perhaps a knock at the door from someone familiar, someone he trusted. He probably figured he'd be right back, so he slipped on his shoes and left with them. What happened afterwards, I don't know. But someone, perhaps multiple people, know what happened and have the answers we're looking for. You could be listening right now. It might be tugging at your heart. You can make it an anonymous tip. Please, if you know something, reach out and help bring closure to his family and friends. This brings us to the end of the story, as there have been no further developments or breaks in Robert's case. The questions remain unanswered, leaving a lingering sense of uncertainty and loss. Thank you for joining me in recounting this difficult journey. Who was Robert McLaughlin really? What drove his actions in those final days? And most importantly, who stands to gain from his disappearance? This is Deadly Duval. I'm Jackson Brewer, and I'll see you next time as we continue to uncover the truth behind Jacksonville's most chilling mysteries. If you have any information about Robert McLaughlin's case, please reach out. Together we might find the answers we're looking for. We'll close out with a clip of Robert McLaughlin, aka Royal Francis.
Red rum come upon any competition. Look up to the sky, cause you know it ain't a limit. You better let them know. I gotta let them know. You better let them know.
He's someone that you would love to be around, that is always kept you uplifted and laughing all the time.